Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by robotic process automation pioneer SS&C Blue Prism. Digital transformation has the potential to reshape the way companies service their customers, engage their employees, and manage their operations. Whether you're looking to develop strategies, tactics, or best practices to positively impact the future of work, or you're curious to see how other companies have successfully navigated their digital transformation programs, then this podcast is for you. We're here to help you transform now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Hairston with SS&C Blue Prism. Welcome to the Transform Now podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to have three guests on the show to talk about how intelligent automation is playing an important role in ESG. Joining me are Martha Amram, CEO of Glynt, Rahul Sareen, the Global Head of Go-to-Market and Business Development for Sustainability Solutions at AWS, and Michael McLaughlin, VP of Cloud Alliances and Channel at SS&C Blue Prism. Well, welcome everyone. Really glad to have you here. Let's kick this off with some introductions. Martha, why don't you go first?
Thanks, Brad. Glad to be here and glad to be joining up with AWS and Blue Prism on a joint effort. I'm the founder and CEO of Glynt.ai. We are an AWS partner of longstanding, and we use advanced machine learning to process data so it can be reported in ESG and sustainability, carbon accounting, or energy management use cases, also utility bill payments. So lots of disparate data, lots of structured data coming out of Glynt. So think of us as data. And as we will be talking about later on in the podcast, where in the heck is this data? And how does it get automated? That's where the crux of the matter is. And we have found with our customers that we all want to report and we want to reduce, but data is the hardest challenge in sustainability these days.
Excellent. Thank you. Rahul, how about you?
Hey, Brad, thanks for having us on the podcast. This is a pretty important topic for us. But as you mentioned, I lead the go-to-market and business development for AWS around sustainability solutions. So our main role is to work with customers and partners like Blue Prism and Glynt to build sustainability solutions that are actually solving the real world problems that our customers face around sustainability. So whether it's around ESG reporting, to value chain transparency, to biodiversity losses, to just even detecting how can organizations decarbonize their value chain. And then we provide the power of digital transformation and emerging technologies and all the AWS services that we offer to build these solutions and offer it to our customers.
Fantastic. Michael.
Hi, Brad. So I'm the VP of Cloud Alliances and Channel. It's my team that manages the AWS relationships. And one of the things that we look to do is create solutions with them and partners such as Glynt. So ESG has both a sort of personal interest to me because I can obviously see what's happening, and I've got a couple of girls who are growing into this world, and also the business one, as I feel actually intelligent automation has a massive part to play within this area. And as Martha alluded to, we'll get into the conversation around data and why it's so important.
Well, thanks again to all of you for being here. I feel really privileged to have the three of you here to talk about this important topic. Martha, let me start our conversation with you. So 5 years ago, when ESG was becoming quite a focal point, Larry Fink, the chairman and CEO of BlackRock, who's arguably one of the most influential investors in the world, said to prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it makes a positive contribution to society. So Martha, do you think this view still holds up today? And where do you think ESG is as a priority for company leaders now versus 5 years ago when Fink made that statement?
You know, Larry Fink set the stage so well, and he did it in a very positive tone at that time. I think it's great. And the world has moved on. It's starting to be everyday business practice. So we don't need to have that aspirational tone. In between the time Larry put out that letter and today, the World Economic Forum had a convening in 2020 to harmonize ESG reporting because investors were getting incredibly confused data. There is a study at MIT called the Aggregate Confusion Project. which shows that there's no correlation between one ratings on ESG and another provider's ratings. And the London Stock Exchange found very similar kinds of confusion when they looked at carbon by reporting company. They found 100% error rates and 100% confidence interval around the data. So with that frustration of investors, there was a convening of all the big standards bodies and 135 leading companies and set out a framework to harmonize everything over the following years. That was in 2020. 2023 has seen this come to life. So as an example, the International Audit and Accounting Standards Board, which we all follow, right? They released their sustainability audit criteria in July in draft form, and it will be formalized this December. It is all those pieces, and there's been about 15 such pieces that allow us to see the harmonization and make sustainability reporting an everyday activity in financial statement reporting, in how financial statements are processed for use by investors, in raising capital, like for bonds and working capital, and for just reporting to regulators and then finally to customers. So thank you, BlackRock. I think their role is different today. I think the world has moved on very quickly. And I would just point out that the chairman of the SEC spoke to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce just last week. And when they first put out their draft rules in March 2022, he had a cost of compliance. That's about $700,000 for a public company. Last week, he said, that cost of compliance has gone down because large supply chains like Amazon have required emissions data of all suppliers. So we're not adding burden, we're just riding along. And California has put out regulations that require any company with more than 500 million in revenues in California, regardless of where headquartered, to report. So thus the burden of the SEC on public companies becomes much less. And I think that's just part of this normalization and a way to quantify that.
Very interesting perspective. So Martha, your company, Glynt, has been a technology alliance partner for Blue Prism for a while, and very, very interesting solution that you bring to market. We talked about it on the podcast about 18 months ago, but update us on how things have evolved with your company since then.
On the podcast 18 months ago, there was a lot of affection for AI just in general. And what we've learned since then is you really have to solve, as Rahul said, real world problems that customers have. For Glynt, that has meant really building a very strong data pipelining from disparate primary data sources, which are the originating invoices, sometimes spreadsheets, IoT logs, and so on, into structured data that is suitable for reporting as non-financial data in financial statements and into regulatory formats. And so that purpose has increased in value. The market has definitely grown, and Glynt is just built much, much more technology around it. We are a customer of AWS. So at the bottom of our tech stack or down there in the weeds is some of the AWS OCR technologies, but Glynt uses our own proprietary machine learning built for exactly this purpose. And the problem that we all face when reporting this data is it's so different. It's so wildly different. And so we built a machine learning system that allows us to go very broadly across all types and continue to automate them at very low cost.
Yeah, the whole topic of AI has certainly changed dramatically just in the last 12 months with generative AI, has it not? I mean, it's amazing the impact that it's had. And ESG is still there. It's still a big topic, but certainly Gen AI has taken center stage, and it seems like all companies want to talk about right now.
So we see that in two ways. One is the kind of AI that we do is predictive. We don't generate new stuff. We just find it and extract it. So transparency and no bias, we can show that pretty clearly. We're talking about data lineage. So a little bit nerdy, a little bit more narrow. But what we found is we produce what one of our customers called an ocean of data. So much more data than they've ever had before. And as energy, water, waste, and so on are actually operational data. So with this operational data, they can feed it back into other systems such as SAP and Oracle or accounting systems. And our customer, more than one, has discovered duplicate invoices, meters that should have been closed off and they're still paying fixed charges on, energy management savings, but more broadly, operational savings across the business that are leading to real cash flow. And this has to do with the abundance of structured sustainability data being way more accurate than what's being processed and put into ERP, because like Glynt, it's built on a very modern tech stack. And so as we feed it back in, then it becomes a new source of truth and shines a light on other operational efficiencies. So I think that sets the stage. And then you can use that master data in your ERP and AP systems for generative AI. And if you don't have this abundance of accurate data, then your generative AI might, air quotes here, hallucinate.
Yeah.
But with the accurate data, you can get business going today and build the foundation for good generative AI within the enterprise firewalls.
Great point. Rahul, let me ask you about something. So a Gartner survey last year revealed that 87% of business leaders expect to increase their organization's investment in ESG and sustainability goals. How are you and AWS helping organizations do ESG well?
One of the things that we are seeing a trend, which is, in my opinion, a very low-hanging fruit that most of the business leaders are leveraging, is that businesses are migrating from legacy on-premise data centers to AWS to not only help with increasing computing and storage needs, but they are also availing the benefit of reducing the impact of their IT footprint. In fact, there was a study that was conducted by international analyst firm 451 Research that found that moving on-premise workloads to AWS can lower the workload carbon footprint by at least 80% and up to 96% once AWS is powered with 100% renewable energy, which we are anyways on target to be on path to meet by 2025. Now, AWS's infrastructure is 3.6 times more energy efficient than the median of the surveyed US enterprise data centers, and almost up to 5 times more energy efficient than average in the EU and the APJ. So, as I mentioned, these are some of the things that customers are leveraging, which are low-hanging fruit. And why would you want to run it on-prem when you can leverage the power and scale of cloud? On the other hand, moving to measuring and reporting on the organizational environmental footprint, some of the challenges that we have heard that Martha also kind of mentioned is our customers tell us that the data that is used for all the ESG calculations, they are either in disparate sources, the data is manually captured in spreadsheets, lacking data integrity and auditability, which is a time-consuming process, right? AWS provides a comprehensive set of services across the end-to-end data journey, from storing, querying, and analyzing them, for putting that data to action through business intelligence, machine learning, and generative AI. We also have services and features to quickly help integrate those data across sources and tools for cataloging and governing, right? And that's why I've been mentioning about it. Partnership with Blue Prism and Glynt has been super powerful because we kind of cover the end-to-end spectrum, and they are leveraging the power of AWS and emerging technologies to make that happen.
Great. And Rahul, let me also ask you just about the topic of innovation, which AWS, it's one of your core values. How is innovation key to achieving sustainability goals, in your opinion?
In my opinion, digital transformation plays a vital role in helping businesses achieve their sustainability goals. By integrating digital technologies into their operations, organizations can drive positive environmental and social impacts while enhancing their overall performance and competitiveness. In fact, digital transformation enables businesses to improve resource efficiencies by optimizing energy, water consumption, reducing waste, and minimizing environmental footprints. It allows for implementation of innovative solutions such as smart grids, energy management systems, and leveraging IoT-enabled devices. They can actually enable real-time monitoring and control of the resources. And digital transformation refers to the application of technologies such as big data, AI, mobile platforms, blockchain, and IoT, and many others. And we have services in all of those areas. We provide tools, and my team is responsible for building solutions leveraging our AWS technology stack to solve these challenges for our customers.
Fantastic.
What Rahul is saying, we see over and over with customers And it is the transformation of it, what I might call a tax, which is, oh yeah, I got to report. They're telling me I got to do it, to actually something that delivers so much value. The ROI is pretty high. So it's forcing companies to rethink workflows and build new workflows, including the kind of automation that Blue Prism can bring. But that just turns digital transformation into something that was lofty and big into, no, I got to do this small thing. I got to build these things. And already it's saving me money. And we see this over and over. So this is the moment where it just expands to an enhanced ROI far beyond what was originally anticipated.
And Brad, like maybe to just close on to Martha's point, in my opinion, and even if you hear from our leaders within AWS and Amazon, digital transformation and your business transformation, it shouldn't be like opposite. It should go hand in hand. And we have anecdotes, we have customers who have actually proven that.
Yeah, completely agree with that. So Michael, both Martha and Rahul have mentioned data a few times, and I think most people would agree that doing ESG well requires both high data quality and high data accessibility, and you might even add data integration. How does intelligent automation factor into all of that?
Yeah. From the intelligent automation point of view, I think it plays a significant role in that sort of enhancing the qualities and the accessibility. So, and I think first and foremost, it's about collection and integration. The fact that digital workers from Blue Prism can integrate with just about any system or website means that they can go and collect that data from a wide range of sources, including sort of internal systems that we've already mentioned before, but third-party providers, external databases and websites. For example, you could log into the FCA or the SEC website to go and get company reports. I think assessing and collecting data, that means that digital workers can allow you to get into the hundreds of different data sources that both Martha and Rahul have already mentioned. So I think one of the key activities in this will be the collection and integration to allow you to get the right type of information. And again, Martha's already touched on this as well. I think audit trail and data integrity, intelligent automation gives you the ability to understand where and when and how you got that data, where it was collected from, and it will ensure that it is the correct and accurate data with no sort of little fingers getting involved and maybe changing that. So no chance of, or being able to unprove the fact as greenwashing. And again, Martha's touched on a few things in here, but I think summarization is important. Certainly when we use services with the likes of AWS, Bedrock, we say Titan, the ability, certainly within scope 3, to collect a massive amount of unstructured, different formatted data and be able to take a summary out of that you can use within your own systems, I think will be massively important. And this is where I think the sort of control and wrap you can get from intelligent automation around using something like Gen AI or AI in general will allow us to put context control and make sure you keep the standards. So intelligent automation, I think, has got a significant part to play in data quality, accessibility, by the fact it can automate the collection and you can integrate with almost anything, and it allows you to get sort of clean data that's accurate. And lastly, that also is up to date. A digital worker can get that information very regularly. And I think one of the points in here is that as we move further into the regulation, there will be more requirements to having more up-to-date data as we move forward.
Okay. Michael, sometimes when ESG comes up, the environmental sustainability portion gets all the emphasis, but we know there's a social element, there's a governance element. Can you talk a little bit more broadly just about how digital workers can impact each of those areas?
I think in terms of process improvement and how to automate, a digital worker is quicker, more efficient, more accurate than humans in the majority of cases, not all cases. And that means the work can be done in less time with fewer errors, and therefore the company can actually save money on there, which touches again on the points of what they're doing in digital transformation. On the social side, there used to be a sort of mantra that was always kind of used, was making work better. And one of the old phrases, and to be fair, it still applies today, is that the digital workers take the robot out of the human. And I think from the social side, the ability to make people's jobs more interesting and more compelling, and also allow them to spend more time on more interesting things, maybe dealing with customers or even suggesting ESG improvements. It could go through from there. But other areas, I think digital workers can help take bias. So things like the recruitment process, because they're rules based and they don't have that same sort of interest in the sex of somebody, their color, their creed, their religion, and those types of things as well. And then lastly, one of the areas I think in social side is looking at your stakeholder engagement. Digital workers can allow companies to offer information in more ways. That might be a sort of text-to-speech service for people with visual impairments, or an instant translation of a service into another language. And these types of things that you can program digital workers to deliver those areas. Lastly, on governance, and I think a lot of those things with data accuracy, security, and integrity we've just discussed, but also you can help with risk management. You can use digital workers to help identify where the governance is not being followed, and you can put policy enforcement through the types of processes you can build with intelligent automation. So you can really make sure that what they're doing is going through from there. So for me, I think the digital workers can go across the board of all of the three areas and help you reduce time, effort, cost, and waste, and hopefully get a better working environment for people.
Those are great examples, Michael. Martha, anything you want to add from your perspective on just the impact of intelligent automation in the ESG space?
I would love to introduce the AWS marketplace listing that Blue Prism and Glynt built together that really leverages intelligent automation. And this was when we first met Rahul some months ago. This was suggested by Rahul because he'd been experiencing it like a deluge of incoming customer calls. And once I heard that, over the months, I started hearing those same requests from customers. And it is two things. One is, where the heck is my data? And so our marketplace listing uses intelligent automation to systematically go through like an SAP or an Oracle instance and find the primary original source data that you might need for sustainability reporting. And let's just take one case, which is known as Scope 2, your indirect use of utilities. Where the heck are your utility bills? Actually, people don't know. They might be in a general ledger code called all things energy or all things utilities, but that could include your telco provider. So how do you find the exact one? So using intelligent automation to go through and figure this out with structured queries, retaining the script and updating that to make sure you have a comprehensive view allows you to pass your audit. Because how else will you know if you have complete data sources on just this one type of emissions without a script, without that customized logic to your SAP instance, because everyone is different. And if you accidentally omit data in your emissions reporting, that could lead to charges of greenwashing, or it could lead to a qualified audit opinion. And no one on the greenwashing or audit opinion side really cares if it was intentional or just a darn mistake. You'll still get your hands slapped and possibly a fine. And the fines are pretty steep. So I think that intelligent automation and discovery of the original data sources, which is known as primary data, is awesome. Once it's discovered, you get to the second part of the marketplace listing, which is now you have sort of what I would call a geolocation identifier somewhere in SAP. You know exactly where that bill is. You know where it's going to be every month. And then you can set up intelligent automation in its customized way for your instance of SAP to go pick it up. And those are two tactical things, automation of the data connection to primary sources and discovery of those sources that the marketplace listing that Glynt and Blue Prism have together. Now, you can do that for anything related to carbon emissions, the E. You can also do it for all your social data, which is connect to HR systems and find out gender balance and racial balance and so on. So you can do those automations and those queries. Everybody has different implementations. There's no one size fits all. And so sitting down with your customer and figuring this out and having intelligent automation at your site makes it all fit together.
And Martha, I don't even know where my utility bills are. I can't imagine how a company can keep track of hundreds or thousands of them to gather and aggregate all this emissions data.
I mean, we may know where we are in two regions of the US, but globally, that's a whole different matter. So I think there's just really this weaving and knitting to customized enterprise systems is really important. And that's part of digital transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, anything you would add to what Martha has said about how Glynt and Blue Prism combine to do more end-to-end automation for emissions reporting?
Yeah, I mean, Martha's mentioned a little bit about the solution, but what a nice analogy actually is using, well, we're the kind of arms and legs for the Glynt system. So the system itself comes with a couple of digital workers from Blue Prism, as well as Glynt's sustainability data solution, and all of their sort of proven methodologies to be able to do that. And the intelligent automation, this bundle allows you to build the facility to go and access and integrate and suck the information out of your systems as well as external systems. Glynt then does its work in creating the data and understanding that, and there's going through the solution in there. And then you use digital workers to then post the information out from there. It can be purchased on the AWS marketplace. So if you have an EDP in place, you can actually utilize that towards spending through from there. And it will allow you to get the discovery of all that primary data that you want to add.
We have this on our website as well. And just imagine you walk up to your ordinary SAP database today. Is it going to have KWH? Is it going to have meters? Is it going to have service periods of energy delivery? No, because nobody ever needed it before. So you'll see a lot of hand waving in the carbon accounting, sustainability, and ESG space around automated connectors. But before you get to the automated connector, you have to pull the primary data and process it. And that's the dance that we're doing together with Blue Prism, finding it, pulling it, processing it, and placing it in the new place. And there's no substitute for that. We all want data to stop the climate change problem. We just don't have that data. We need to be processing it. And this is the solution that gets you there.
Understood. Martha, emissions accounting appears to be kind of the center post of most sustainability initiatives for companies. And right in the center of that is the finance and accounting function. How is Glynt enabling CFOs and their teams to be the ESG champions within the enterprise?
What we're seeing today is in the CFO's team, one layer down, there'll be the controller. And the controller is the party that's usually responsible for the audit relationship on the financial audits. And all the financial auditors are adding sustainability. So your entity that manages your audit relationship is adding sustainability to that relationship. And that's the party that's active in the finance team around all of this. Because they're like, oh, I know who I'm dealing with. As I mentioned earlier, it's now harmonized and clear. I know what I got to get done. And it's on me to keep this audit function, internal and external, rolling along. So what we see is sustainability folks who have all of the environmental knowledge and they keep up with like the boundaries of nature and so on. They're not speaking finance. And we see finance saying, well, I've got to partner up here with my sustainability team, but I am the reporting entity. And in Europe, we hear a lot of phrases called sustainability data is non-financial data reported on a financial statement. So I think over the next 18 months, the controller, and there might be an ESG controller as a subvariant of this, they own them. And as we work with customers, we're brought in by sustainability, we're blessed by finance, or we're owned by finance and sustainability together and blessed by IT. But you can see this mix, everybody coming together.
So Rahul, Martha mentioned the significance of Blue Prism and Glynt, both being consumable on the AWS marketplace. Can you just elaborate on what this means for ESG and for companies that are looking to do this in the cloud and do it with speed and agility?
Yeah. Our customers are looking to drive insights and innovation from data. And they're looking for a complete set of tools that account for the scale, volume, and the variety of data, and the many purposes for which they want to use it, and many people who need to use it. For all these things, the Glynt and Blue Prism solution kind of like merges all the side of data collection, automation of data collection, as well as doing the calculations. One of the things that Martha mentioned around utility bill, which is a big pain for scope 2 calculations. How are we making it easier for customers so that they can just go to one place and get it out of the box without them worrying about, doing multiple integrations? And I think that's why having this solution available on marketplace so customers can directly go it from the marketplace and start playing around with it, start leveraging it for their business processes, or they can actually work with our team or with AWS to do a further discovery. We can bring them in. We can kind of jointly build a whole value proposition of how this solution really works with them. So I think it has been a really good process of getting both Blue Prism and Glynt to come up with a joint solution. And we are seeing a more and more of this. There is no one tool right now that does all of it. For us to help customers in the ESG space, there are three main things that we need to do. One is automation of data. The other thing is doing the calculations and then driving the sustainability metrics that customers need. And then the third is basically taking data-driven actions on that. The beauty about this particular joint partnership with Blue Prism and Glynt is that it actually covers all these three areas very well.
Excellent. ESG is clearly a priority for AWS. Can you share perhaps an example of how AWS is helping customers leverage cloud and emerging tech to solve their sustainability challenges and goals?
Absolutely. So this example is pretty near and dear to my heart. We actually help the Climate Pledge Arena. So for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a multi-purpose live entertainment venue in Seattle that is built for live music and events, and is also home to the NHL's Seattle Kraken and WNBA's Seattle Storm. So in fact, just I believe few weeks ago, they got net zero certification from ILFI, which was a big achievement for the arena of that size. So when they came to us, they were looking to provide industry standard carbon emissions reporting platform. That means integration of multiple data sources that are not readily available or built for digital consumption. So like Martha mentioned, we were dealing with utility bills that doesn't have any API, right? So we had to basically manually ingest those utility bills and then do analytics on top of it, right? So that's where we leveraged our machine learning algorithms to automatically extract the relevant information from the documents and then report on the scope to numbers. Similarly, they were also looking for building a self-service carbon calculation and reporting capabilities for non-technical arena teams. So most of the team that were working on it, they don't have any expertise on the cloud or on the digital platforms. So they were looking for a self-serve tool where they can just go to a UI platform and just start working on that, right? So leveraging AWS, we built a data platform on Amazon S3 for ingesting and processing of arena data sources, including utilities, food and beverage sourcing, and then built carbon model for emission calculations and a web application for manual entry of arena data sources that were not available for automation at that point. And then as a result, we built this platform out. We scaled it to report on 24 sustainability KPIs, including total carbon emissions, locally sourced food, beverage, and single occupancy within vehicle parking. So these were some of the KPI that we were measuring. And all of this was made possible leveraging the scale and the technologies that AWS has. So our data lake foundations built on S3, machine learning models using TextStrat and SageMaker, and then running like analysis using QuickSight. We were able to make those possible for the arena team.
That's a really compelling story. Thank you for sharing that, Rahul.
I don't know if Amazon sees it in themselves, but when you see a listing on AWS and you can point to it and you're talking to a customer, all of a sudden sustainability feels like super normal every day, not crazy frontier. And so the opportunity to list and work with the AWS team, I think is really huge in just helping everybody get the job done in a normal way.
Yeah. Indeed. As we wrap up today, I'd like to ask each of you to talk about how you see the ESG space evolving over the next 2 to 3 years. Martha, could you start us off?
Good timing on your question. Glynt has a blog post out this morning that says why the politicization of ESG doesn't matter. And we make the case that when global supply chains like Amazon's, like others, are requiring suppliers to report emissions, California's got their regulations. The SEC is a little bit in the follow mode, and the cost of compliance for the FCC is low. So what I see in the future is not politics. I see every day. We see it being owned more and more by the finance team as they gain experience and data pipelines being built and then maintained thereafter in a highly compliant way so that you're essentially reporting non-financial sustainability data as if it was under Sarbanes-Oxley. And that's where Glynt's pointed to, just this incredible normalization and delivery of this important data. We also see data sharing platforms. So maybe it's a supplier portal, maybe it's a consortium of suppliers, such as in the automotive supply chain. So data sharing becomes separated from data producing, and a company will be sharing their data in a gazillion different ways and formats. The last thing is the EU is adopting a disclosure format with a taxonomy and HTML standardization, sort of like what the SEC does with XRBL. That means that public and private companies in the EU will have their data shared publicly. It's a new game. And their use of estimated data will be part of that. So data quality scores will become a CFO badge of honor around sustainability. You can see the market dynamics moving really quickly here into normalization and CFOs just buckling down and getting this right because it's their personal reputation. And that's what we predict over the next, I wouldn't say 2 years, but 36 months.
Very good. Rahul, your thoughts?
I think I've been saying about this, and I'll probably summarize it in just a few words, is automation is the key. One of the big challenges that we hear from customers, not only just around ESG space, but sustainability in general, is data availability. So we obviously are trying to fix the data availability, but even if the data is there, it's very siloed. It's not formatted. It's in different data types. So how can we build an automation for the whole data ingestion to not only just help solve ESG, but also circularity, biodiversity, value chain transparency? All these use cases are kind of relied around automation of data ingestion and transformation. So I think if we can start figuring out around how can we automate data, as well as how can then we apply the sustainability calculations and the metrics that we need to find out to take actions, that's what we need to help solve these challenges.
Okay. Michael, how about your perspective on this?
Strangely enough, I was going to say that I thought automation was the key as well, working for the automation company, but I couldn't agree more. I think that automation, collection, reporting, and the productivity improvements, I think as people get their ESG strategies in place and they understand their benchmarks, they understand where they are against their competitors or where they want to be in terms of their standing, I think boards will be using the data that they collect from ESG and those benchmarks to drive strategy. So what we'll see in the future, I think, is the use of automation not only to collect in the first instance, but drive productivity afterwards and drive digital transformation. And both Martha and Rahul pointed out that digital transformation was always seen as this giant thing that came through, but I think we can do that. The thing I'm going to leave it with is I think that ESG and the associated regulations are going to be bigger than Sarbanes-Oxley. And that is the thing that I'm going to leave this with. The way the EU is going, I think this has got the potential. If people thought Sarbanes-Oxley was a big thing, I think this is going to be bigger.
The new Starbucks. How about that? That's a pretty bold prediction, but I like it.
That sounds like the title of the podcast.
Well, it should be mentioned that both Glynt and Blue Prism will be heavily represented at the upcoming AWS reInvent conference that starts on November 27th in Las Vegas. Michael, perhaps you could talk about the opportunities for attendees to connect with you and Martha there.
So we will have a booth, number 168, on the main conference floor, where we will be having demos of what the Glynt and Blue Prism solution looks like. We're also very lucky enough to have both Martha and Rahul speaking at an evening event that we've organized as well. So come and speak to us, come make an appointment with ourselves or Glynt and or both. and potentially come and see the presentations from Martha and Rahul later on in the evening.
Very good. Michael, I will include the link to that event that you mentioned in the show notes for this podcast. Well, ESG may have lost a little bit of the limelight over the last year due to the emergence of Gen AI, but it's still there. It's still a priority for most companies, and no doubt it will only increase in importance as we go forward. In the midst of this, it is really good to see how intelligent automation has intersected this space in such a powerful way. Martha, Rahul, and Michael, thank you very much for being on the podcast today and sharing your thoughts. It's been a true pleasure talking with you, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to driving more innovation, all of you.
Thank you, Brad and Blue Prism for hosting the podcast. And we look forward to seeing everybody at AWS reInvent. Happy to schedule conversations with interested folks. Just reach me, sales@glynt.ai, GLYNT.ai.
Yeah, and look, we are very much looking forward to being at AWS reInvent. Come and see us.
Thanks for tuning in to Transform Now. For more insightful discussions on digital transformation and more, check out our podcast channel where you'll find all of our previous episodes. And to make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player. And if you like what you've heard, please leave us a review. For more information about digital transformation and the future of work, check out blueprism.com to learn how SS&C Blue Prism's digital workforce is enabling enterprise transformation now.